Breaking news! Philadelphia is about to erupt, and if you bleed midnight green, you'd better get ready. What's happening behind the scenes at our beloved Philadelphia Eagles could ignite one of the greatest seasons in recent franchise history. The atmosphere inside the nest is one of calculated war. Howie Roseman, our behind-the-scenes mastermind, isn't just making moves. He's crafting a bold, meticulously planned strategy with one clear goal, bringing the Vince Lombardi Trophy back home. But like any great journey, the road to glory demands tough decisions. Not everything is settled. There are pieces on the board still shifting, unfinished business to resolve, and crucial calls being made behind closed doors. And I'm about to tell you everything I've learned. But first, let me ask you something. Do you still believe? Do you still trust Howie's sharp instincts? This roster's championship mentality? If the answer is yes, smash that like button right now. But only if you truly believe this team is flying back to the Super Bowl. As for me, I'm all in. My faith is unshakable. And if you're riding with us all the way, drop it in the comments. Go Birds! We're going to the Super Bowl. Now settle in, take a deep breath, and stay locked in, because what I'm about to share with you is big. There's a quiet buzz building in the NovaCare complex, and it's not just about Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, or the elite-level trio of A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. No, this is about the underdogs, the players nobody else in the league is watching closely, but maybe they should be. Howie Roseman may have pulled off two more low-risk, high-reward moves by bringing in a pair of wide receivers who could shock everyone come roster cut-down day, Danny Gray and Terrace Marshall. Let's start with Danny Gray. Picked up by Philly last year for virtually nothing, Gray is a burner, straight-up speed demon, clocking a 4.33 in the 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. Drafted in the third round back in 2022 by the 49ers, Gray's career has so far been stuck in neutral. Why? Injuries, drops, and a coach in Kyle Shanahan who's notoriously tough on young wideouts, especially those who haven't earned his trust. One catch for 10 yards in his NFL career? Yeah, that's not going to turn heads on the surface. But what's important here is context and development. Gray didn't just run go routes at SMU. He's not one-dimensional. His route tree included crossers, post routes, sideline outs. He worked all levels of the field. He has a lean but solid frame at 6 feet, 186 pounds, and showed throughout this past spring that he's not just surviving camp, he's excelling. He made play after play in OTAs and minicamp, especially with the second-team offense. He was one of the most active and reliable targets on that unit, routinely creating separation and making big plays. Sure, there are still questions. Can he hold up in pads? How will he react when corners jam him at the line and the physicality ramps up? But there's enough intrigue here that Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni are watching closely. Gray's speed alone opens up this offense vertically, pulling safeties deeper and creating space underneath for Brown, Smith, and Goedert. And don't forget about the run game. His presence helps open up lanes for Barkley and opens the playbook for Hurts to take shots downfield. When your quarterback is one of the most accurate deep ball passers in the NFL, it makes sense to give him another vertical weapon. This leads us to the next name you need to remember, Terrace Marshall. Marshall is no stranger to high expectations. Drafted in the second round by Carolina, 59th overall in 2021, the LSU product came into the league with a ton of hype. And for good reason. He was a key piece of that 2019 LSU offense, one of the greatest college football teams of all time. That squad, led by Joe Burrow, was stacked, and yet Marshall still managed to catch 13 touchdowns that season. In 2020, in just 7 games, he put up 731 yards and 10 more scores. This guy was a 5-star recruit, ranked number 10 nationally by ESPN, and the number 1 player in Louisiana. But so far, in the NFL, nothing close to that. His time with the Panthers was rough, bad quarterback play, instability, frustration. He requested a trade, didn't get it, got cut. He bounced around briefly, Niners practice squad, then with the Raiders, but he never got a real shot. Now, he's in Philly, and like Gray, he's been making plays this spring. Marshall brings size and speed. He's 6 feet 2 inches, 200 pounds, and runs a 4.4. That's a different kind of threat than Gray. He can win on contested catches. He can work the middle of the field and hold up against contact. And unlike Johnny Wilson or Anaya Smith, 2 rookies who were drafted this year but haven't separated themselves yet, Marshall has the pedigree, the experience, and now, apparently, the momentum. It's no secret that wide receiver depth is still being sorted out in Philly. After Brown, Smith, and Paris Campbell, there are real questions. Is Britton Covey locked in just because of special teams? Is Joseph Ngata making the leap? Is Johnny Wilson really ready? And if the answer is no, then the door is wide open. In fact, based on early projections coming out of camp, both Gray and Marshall are on the inside track to make the final 53-man roster. They've looked sharper, more explosive, and frankly, more consistent than Smith and Wilson. That's not a knock on the rookies, it's just the reality. And this is how you build championship depth. You take shots on talented players who haven't hit yet and you develop them the right way, in the right culture. These guys aren't here to be placeholders. They're here to compete. Gray could become the stretch-the-field weapon that lets Hurts turn games upside down in one throw. Marshall could be the reliable chain mover who slides in as a big-body target when coverage collapses on Brown and Smith. These are the kinds of moves that make Howie Roseman one of the best GMs in football. So now, the question I leave for you is this. Will Danny Gray and Terrace Marshall beat out Ainias Smith and Johnny Wilson for a spot on the 53-man roster? Tell me what you think in the comments. And if you want the continuation of this story, including the ripple effects on special teams, the long-term impact on the wide receiver room, and how this sets up the Eagles' offense for 2025, stick with me, because we're only just getting started. Let me know when you're ready for part 2. If Danny Gray and Terrace Marshall do make this roster over Ainias Smith and Johnny Wilson, it's going to send shockwaves through the entire depth chart. That WR4 and WR5 battle might sound like background noise in June, but in reality, it's pivotal. It determines who's getting live reps in case of injury, who's taking the field on special teams, and who's part of the future core of this offense. And the fact that we're even talking about Gray and Marshall as frontrunners in that conversation says a lot about the urgency and the intensity of this offseason in Philadelphia. Let's talk ripple effects. If Gray sticks, say he becomes WR4, what does that mean for special teams? Don't forget, this is a guy who has some return potential. His raw speed, his ability to cut on a dime, and the fact that he's shown real comfort tracking the ball in the air gives Michael Clay, the Eagles' special teams coordinator, something to work with. That could push Britton Covey out of the rotation entirely. Covey's value has always been as a returner. But if Gray can do that and also contribute more as a downfield threat in the passing game, the decision could come down to pure versatility. Same goes for Terrace Marshall. You want a big-bodied target that can move the chains, run routes cleanly, and absorb contact? That's not what Smith or Wilson have proven capable of yet. Not at the NFL level, and not even consistently in camp so far. Marshall has taken reps this spring and made them count, using his size and experience to show Sirianni and Brian Johnson that he can handle a role in this offense if needed. What we're watching unfold is classic Eagles team building. This is what Howie Roseman does. He doesn't just stockpile talent for the sake of it. He brings in guys with upside who are undervalued elsewhere. He lets them fight it out in an extremely competitive environment. If they rise to the occasion, they earn a shot. That's exactly what's happening with Gray and Marshall. But it's also a warning to every young wide receiver on the roster. Draft status doesn't mean security. Ainias Smith and Johnny Wilson were picked by Philly in this year's draft, but that doesn't mean they're guaranteed anything. Smith has quickness and versatility, but he's looked inconsistent. Wilson has size, but has struggled with separation and drops. If that continues, they could be practice squad candidates by late August. It's not personal, it's business, and that business is